so we don't really agree, and there's been a lot of arguments that we really have never argued so much in the past that we really, I guess, we're not bouncing back as well as I wanted us to. But and then I'm stressed with the new baby, and he's stressed because now he feels like he needs to do more to bring in more money, and so those are kind of some of the plans that have been in question.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty stressed with an addition of a new child, and also not being able for your husband and you to communicate very well about how you guys want to spend money.
Right.
And then that causes conflict between the two of you?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you saying is that you feel like the priority needs to be a new house, and
Yes.
that's where the money needs to go. Where your husband feels like the priority needs to be him starting his own business and also getting a bigger car for your family.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So that causes a lot of tension between the two of you, which, how does that make you feel overall?
Well, it almost makes me feel like I'm failing because our kids had never heard us argue before, and suddenly, they're very young, and so when we do start arguing, I could see how confused they are, and we try not to raise our voices, and we try not to discuss things like this in front of the kids, but sometimes it does just come out, and I get really upset, and it's hard for me to contain my anger and my frustration that we do end up raising our voices, and we do end up taking up time in the argument that the kids end up crying, or I guess next thing you know, 20-30 minutes have passed and we're still arguing, and as opposed to before where we were usually able to figure things out really quickly and just continue about our day. Continue tending to the kids, continue with our daily plans, continue, and now it's like the arguments are taking up so much time and so much out of our day and so much energy that's almost also resulted in us spending like less quality time together, or us almost spending an entire day, in the same house, but like apart from each other. Whereas before we would all go out as a family, or we would take the kids somewhere, or we would just watch movies together. So it's been pretty stressful, and it's been pretty upsetting, and I feel almost like the failure part of it is mainly on me, because sometimes I tend to snap first and raise my voice first. So that's kind of how I've been feeling about it.
Do you feel like, if I'm hearing you correctly, you feel like you're failing your kids, or you feel that in these situations, when you get really angry and frustrated, you don't feel like you're exemplifying the family that you were hoping to exemplify to your children in those moments?
I think both. I think a little bit of both, because I feel like my husband and I are both, as a team, the examples as to how my children should communicate with the partner, and should also communicate with other people, and how they should handle the problems, and it hasn't been going so good anymore.
So you also want to be a great role model to your children.
Yes.
As to what a relationship should look like.
Yes.
And you find frustration in that at this time, that you don't feel like you are modeling exactly that relationship that you hope to model to them.
Right. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your husband in general. For example, what were things like before this last child?
We usually agreed on everything, and the things that we disagreed on were very minor, and we would usually be able to talk things out really quickly, and we would be able to reach a compromise, and almost like negotiate, whereas now we haven't been able to do that so much. So before, I felt more supported by him, and I felt like he understood my point of views a lot better, and I was willing to give up some things to compromise with him, because what he would ask me to compromise on wasn't such a huge deal like the things he's asking me to compromise now.
So you felt really supported in the past, and that helped you guys get through conflicts.
Yes.
And now there's some really big things on the table, and you don't feel like he's supporting you in the same way.
Right.
Okay. And how long have you guys been together?
About 6 years.
6 years. And how many children do you have?
3.
3 children. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How old are they?
They are 5, 2, and the new baby is 3 months old.
Wow. Congrats. A new baby in the home.
Yes.
So, in the 6 years that you guys have been together, do you feel like in the past you were able to, let me rephrase that question. In the 6 years you guys have been together, it sounds like frequently you guys were able to talk through things, communicate effectively. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
Well, I think we had the same goals from the beginning, and we had pretty solid plans as to how I was going to reach my individual goals and how he was going to reach his individual goals, and they didn't really conflict with one another. We were able to follow our own track without really affecting each other negatively or having such a huge impact on the entire family. And as we started having kids and we started meeting, our goals along the way, things just seemed to get better and better, and we would learn to communicate even better, and things would get even better. And so we had never really, I can't really remember a time in the past where something so huge was happening that we were constantly discussing or constantly having arguments on or constantly not agreeing. I mean, we went through a lot. We went through job changes. We went through the birth of our first 2 kids. We even went through like some medical issues that he had. At some point, he needed knee surgery, and he was disabled for a year. So even that really didn't cause any turmoil in the home. Everything we figured out very quickly. We agreed on what the next steps, were going to be, and how to, take action, and we just got along great.
So it sounds like you guys have a lot of strengths in your relationships. You guys have been through many stressful events and have been able to get through those events and get through them very successfully. And now you guys have come to a point where you guys have some differences in your goals and your life plans, and so now you're trying to figure out where you're going to go from here.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think now our goals can only be attained with both of our efforts, whereas in the past our goals were easily attainable just by ourselves. So I think that's why there's a lot of arguing now.
So in regards to your functioning, I know you're saying that in your relationship that has not been going well. How about for you in regards to sleeping, eating, things like that?
Well, I'm definitely losing sleep. I noticed that the nights that I go to bed angry, I don't really rest, and I wake up constantly throughout the night. And I don't remember ever having this problem before.
Okay.
And it hasn't really affected my eating, but I feel like it's affected, I guess, even how I communicate with my kids, because sometimes I'm more irritated and I'm like short-tempered, and I lose my cool a lot quicker, or I'm not so passive with like the little things that the kids do, and I do feel like sometimes when I'm irritated I'm a lot stricter than I normally am. So I feel like it really is taking a toll on everyone.
So you feel like you're more irritable, you're more moody, and you're
Yeah.
having a lot more trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
And how long would you say that's been going on?
I want to say maybe the 3 months since the birth of our 3rd child. Definitely it. Right away as soon as our third child was born, we started discussing, the changes that were going to have to be made with a new baby that we weren't planning and we weren't prepared for. So right away, talk about a new car started, and then at first I was okay, but then we couldn't agree on what type of car, and then I almost thought back to, wait a minute, we've been saving up for a new house for a long time now. I didn't want to push that back any longer, and then we've owned the house we have now for about 4 years. So then we started, talking about, well, maybe we could sell this house to buy the new one, whereas the plan before was to rent this one out and buy the new one with just the money we saved up, and now we can't agree on that either. And so when the baby was born, that's when we started having really discussions and arguments on everything. So I would definitely say I started losing sleep with with the birth of the new baby over it.
Okay, so about 3 months now.
Yeah.
And how frequently would you say you guys are fighting?
I would say maybe like every 2 or 3 days. Maybe like 2 to 3 times a week. And when we don't fight, I feel like it's because he got home late from work and I'm already asleep. So it's really when we have the chance to talk about things that we end up fighting.
So about 2 or 3 nights a week, you guys are arguing about the financial situation.
Yeah.
And if you're not arguing about it, it's usually because he's getting home late from work.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else you feel like you can talk to about what's going on at home?